They thought it was just another reconnaissance mission. Instead, they drove straight into hell. An RPG screams out of the trees and slams into a U.S. truck, flipping it in a blast of fire and dust. Gunfire erupts from all directions. Motorcycles swarm the convoy as Green Berets dive behind burning vehicles, yelling for cover. Surrounded, outnumbered 10 to 1. No air support, no way out. This is the Tongo Tongo ambush. Now, let's go back to where it all began. Before sunrise on October 4, 2017, 8 pickup trucks rolled out of the tiny village of Tongo Tongo in Niger. Inside them were U.S. Army Green Berets from ODA 3212 and their Nigerian partner force. Their task seemed simple enough: conduct reconnaissance and track a high-level ISIS commander responsible for deadly raids across the region. But the weather had grounded drone surveillance, intelligence was thin, and everyone on the team felt something wasn't right. Villagers stared a little too long as the trucks rolled by. Motorcycles shadowed the convoy from a distance. The silence felt heavy, almost unnatural. Still, the mission pressed forward. Hours passed with no sign of their target. No fresh intel, no movement. Just the same tight roads, the same tall grass, the same uneasy feeling creeping into every man in the convoy. The operators expressed their concerns. They didn't like being blind in hostile terrain. But the answer from higher headquarters stayed the same: proceed. So they did. Deeper into the scrublands, deeper into uncertainty, deeper into a place where the land itself hid everything beyond 50 meters. More motorcycles appeared along ridgelines. More faces watched from the brush. But still, no contact. That was the clearest warning of all, though none of them knew it yet. By mid-morning, the team made the call to turn back toward Tongo Tongo. Everyone's senses were sharp now, weapons were ready, the convoy tightened its spacing, and then the world exploded. A sudden burst of machine gun fire ripped from the tree line, tearing into the rear trucks. It was precise, aggressive, coordinated. Nigerian soldiers dove for cover, returning fire in every direction. The Americans dismounted immediately, forming a defensive perimeter, but quickly realized what they were facing. This wasn't a probing attack. This was an orchestrated ambush, and they were already in the kill zone. The force that struck them wasn't a small militant band. It was a large, organized ISIS element, more than 100 fighters, with machine guns, RPGs, technical trucks, and motorcycles for rapid flanking. Gunfire came from elevated ridges, from the village, from the trees. Tracers sliced the air. The earth around them erupted with every impact. The operators radioed for air support. Nothing was close enough to help. They truly were on their own. Dust clouded the battlefield. Bullets snapped overhead. The enemy closed in from every direction, tightening the noose every minute. The Americans were outnumbered nearly 10 to 1, but they didn't break. In the middle of this chaos, 4 Americans stood out for their extraordinary courage and selflessness: Staff Sergeant Brian Black, Staff Sergeant Jeremiah Johnson, Staff Sergeant Dustin Wright, and Sergeant LaDavid Johnson. They moved again and again through open fire, directing partner forces, identifying enemy positions, dragging wounded soldiers to cover. Brian Black delivered accurate suppressive fire that kept ISIS gunmen from overrunning the flank. Jeremiah Johnson maneuvered repeatedly under fire to support Nigerian troops and keep the defense from collapsing. Dustin Wright stayed exposed far longer than he should have, tending to the wounded while still returning fire, and LaDavid Johnson moved constantly, firing controlled bursts, covering teammates as they repositioned, refusing to give ground. These actions weren't planned. They were instinct, the instinct to protect each other at all costs. With the ambush closing around them, the order came: break contact! Move south! Find higher ground! What vehicles remained still running surged forward. Soldiers on foot sprinted beside them, firing as they moved, but the enemy was already ahead of them. Another ISIS element struck the convoy with devastating force. Machine gun fire ripped through the vehicles. An RPG detonated close enough to flip one of the trucks, throwing soldiers into the dirt. The team was forced to split. Some continued south, trying to create distance. Others, Black, Johnson, Wright, and LaDavid Johnson, remained in the fight to buy precious seconds for their teammates to escape, seconds that would change everything. Separated from the main group, LaDavid Johnson fought his way through brush and broken terrain, attempting to regroup. He found shallow cover in a small depression and continued firing, maneuvering, refusing to stop. When investigators later examined the site, one thing was clear. He fought until his last round. He never surrendered. He never gave in. Nearby, Dustin Wright and Jeremiah Johnson made their final stand together. Wright attempted life-saving measures for a teammate under direct fire, choosing loyalty over his own safety right up to the final moment. Their courage that day became part of the story America never forgets. More than 2 hours after the ambush began, French Mirage jets finally roared overhead. The battlefield shifted instantly. ISIS fighters scattered, regrouping deeper in the countryside. But by then, The cost had already been paid. 4 Americans killed. Multiple Nigerian partners lost. A mission that would be scrutinized for years, and a lesson that would reshape how U.S. forces operate across Africa. The Tongo Tongo ambush sparked investigations, hearings, changes in oversight, and debates that still continue. But none of that defines what happened on that battlefield. What defines it is bravery, brotherhood, sacrifice under impossible odds. These men fought with a level of courage that transcends politics, tactics, or headlines. They fought for each other, for their team, for survival. And even when surrounded, outnumbered, and cut off, they never stopped fighting. That is their legacy. And that is why their story must be told.